Hi guys. I said I would reply to some of the things we were talking about, so I'm doing this video. English is not my first language. It's also a very lousy argument to try to pull out when discussions might get heated. If I said anything that could be misunderstood, are my eyebrows kind of right? Sudden. Um, I'm terribly sorry. This was definitely not the intention. It's because I'm a really open guy, and when I laugh, I don't mean to be mean. Um, I'm really laughing. I think some things are funny, and uh, who knows, I might lack a little in diplomatic skills. Anyway, bear with me. I apologize for any misunderstanding. So let's see, what were we talking about related to the building of a nation? Yes, I wrote. This means that basically in a conflict of interests, ANCAPs would be swallowed raw by any half-weight ambitious state. Yeah, write a bold statement. Not a bold statement, a bold statement. Of course, I intended to get a reply out of that, to squeeze some answers. I am a curious person, and I figured this is a very good way to get answers in YouTube, so this is why I did it that way. So don't get me wrong. To which I had somebody by the name of Georgium, and I'm sending the people that participated in the debate, I'm sending them the link to this video. Let me see if I can shorten. Oh yes, oh I loved technology. I can shorten the screen here so I can both see what is being written and how I look in the monitor. But anyway, so he wrote, imagine a community of millions of ANCAPs, well armed, well principled, well prepared. Not just a few isolated people within a sea of statists. And now say again that they will be swallowed raw. Lol. I dare you. Okay. I was dared to give a proper reply or to consider a reply to this, and oh, looks even worse. Yeah, let's see. Hope this looks better. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I don't have proper lighting. Anyway, actually, it even got worse. So, I'm going to analyze it, and I'm only doing that. I don't want to mock anyone. Okay, this is not mockery. I'm taking this serious because I know those people are taking it serious as well. And I think this deserves a proper answer, at least an analysis of what the person is saying. So imagine a community of millions of ANCAPs, well armed, well, US, well principled. This is where this goes wrong. Define your principles and define other people's principles. And if you are in an anarchistic environment where everybody is entitled to an opinion, and believe me, I know the anarchistic environment. I grew up my teenager years up to late 20s were all about the anarchistic environment. So don't be surprised that an old crank like me uh, could have any knowledge of the anarchistic environment. I was born between hippies, and I grew up when I was a teenager, my rebel yell, and I don't mean by Billy Idol. That kind of gives a notion of uncaps. Uh, I'm a joker, okay? I like to make jokes. Please don't get it wrong. Mmm, vodka. No, pure water. I don't drink actually. So, if you are a girl and you don't drink, anyway, well principled. That's the tricky bit. Well principled. What principles? I mean, religious people, they have a lot of principles, and I mean a lot of principles. And yeah, ooh, I just compared the usual average atheistic ANCAP to a religious uh, princip principied person. Same thing. I mean, your views, their views, your principle, their principle, your religion, their ideology, your ideology, their religion. I hope you understand where I'm trying to get into. Not just a few isolated people within a sea of statists. Yeah. Uh, Again, why do you think that you are just isolated individuals in a sea of statists? Why do you think this happens? Well, it happened before and will still be happening. Why do you think this happens? I mean, we are becoming more and more free, technically speaking, not if it would depend in the last 50 years at least. We, since a long time, we haven't had so many laws and regulations as we have today, and this is why you folks are becoming relevant and active, and people are actually even starting to look up to you. This plus the way we have been educated to believe that revolutionary types are the cool types. So we want to be revolutionaries, although we don't want to lose our comfort. I mean, to be a revolutionary, not even Fidel Castro was a revolutionary in that sense of the word. If you really know the history of how that revolution really happened, buying, there we go, UNCAPs buying themselves to power. Lessons to learn. If you are about money, that's a very good way of seizing power. Corrupt governments, corrupt, horrible statists. That's your key to success. Buy yourself to power. If you are about money, really, buy yourself to power. It's already happening in not really, sorry. Sorry, anarchists. UNCAP websites and forums, it's already happening. I mean, there are forums out there that I have seen. I was shocked uh, knowing what the term philosopher king means. People can actually buy the position, the title of philosopher king. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is a spit in the face of philosophy as I see it, especially when their replies are, it is like that because it is. I mean, the fuck is wrong with those people? Anyway, like I just wanted to illustrate that some very ignorant people, however, sitting in a pile of cash, uh, if not their parents' cash, are just buying themselves some pretty hardcore titles because they have the capital to do it. So, yay, capital. So then, don't get me wrong. I'm trying to elaborate what you presented to me since you dared me. You know, it's a conversation. For me, it's a completely friendly conversation. I love to debate. Don't get me wrong. I love philosophy. I'm technically speaking all about philosophy, nowadays at least. I have a side project that is all about philosophy. So, yeah, you were there, and I asked you to define those principles. I mean, because religious principles, the people that ANCAPs love to shun, they have a lot of principles. I'm pretty sure some of those religions have even more principles than you have. I mean, so, you know, what principles? Money rules? Is that your principle? I mean, because this is what I'm seeing more and more in ANCAP environments. And don't get me wrong, I think it's great that anarchism is finally realizing that socialism is a killer and it's killing all of them. I mean, doubt me, know your Magno. So then I wrote, lol, you are daydreaming, and I will tell you why you are daydreaming. There will be a problem in accepting hierarchy. The anarchist Achilles heel. Yes, hierarchy is a bitch in an anarchistic environment. To be able to pass something through, you must be a really exceptional person, and that is not to say that there will always be exceptional persons. No, we cannot count on that. We cannot count on the fact that somebody really super is going to show up and help us all up to put our shit together and do something for once, or twice, or a couple of times, or I don't know, count in your hands amount of times, until we finally get tired and everybody around us has died, and and they end up having a rope around their neck. I mean, I can mention several examples. I can mention the Ukrainian Revolution. I can mention the in South America there was a big one. There was the what was the name of that? It was in Brazil. Antonio Conselheiro, he was a guy who saw all the abuse. He was a religious person. He saw all the abuse being committed by the big farmers of the north and eastern part of Brazil, and he decided to create his own community, and the community was such a success because people in his little uh, area, they could farm whatever they wanted and plant whatever they wanted, and it worked fine, so well that a lot of people started flocking in, and they had to start expanding. And for those who have read The Republic from Plato, you know where this ends. I mean, something simple and frugal and proper. Because of the number of people, because it becomes successful, then the numbers rise, then other interests rise, then they have to expand because of the size of the population, and then they start becoming a stone in the shoes of the powerful people around. And at some point, they have to end the fun, and they have all the resources, they have all the time in the world, they have all the cash, they have all the money, they have all the servants, they have all the military people, they have all the sadists, they have all the maniacs, they have all those people that love to do dirty jobs for the powerful people. I mean, you folks play Grand Theft Auto, and we might think, oh, it's just an exaggeration or it's just for the fun of it, but some people actually live that kind of reality, and it's terrible. It's pretty sad. There was a recent event with a professional killer that worked for some mafia in the eastern part of Europe. And there was this journalist that was interviewing him, and he was a very dangerous man. But uh, he talked about his daughter, and at some point the journalist asked him, "But why do you do that?" And then he looked at him like, "I'm going to kill you now." But then the journalist asked, "What do you think that your daughter might have to say about that?" And then the guy just stared and he started crying. He broke out and cried because we are humans. And I know this is a topic that is being really discussed in the UNCAP environment. And my kudos to you Just beware of too many good intentions. Okay, beware of the narcissists amongst you. And sure, many people can say that my project is basically narcissism, but that would imply that you do not know enough about the project that I have. It uses my name, but for the fun of it, it started as a joke. The problem is that people crave so much freedom nowadays when all the rules and all the regulations are getting hard to pass through, like that you need to start living in a virtual environment. You become an escapist. Is that the term in English? To become an escapist in the game environment. And I know I've been there myself. I at some point I spend a lot of time in front of the computer just playing games because life was so horrible that this was the only thing that I had, and I'm pretty sure many of you can relate to it. Um, that was the only good thing, the only possibility that I could actually make my own choices. Although most of the games are usually you have to go through that path. Or now you have this mission and you have to accomplish, but at least you can choose inside this, and that should tell us a lot of what is going on in the world today when even a game that has several missions and things that you have to do, very limited options, really, if we think about the real world, and a game is a set of very limited options, some even to cause a challenge, to cause a very stressful situation. Like I found out actually that I was getting stressed by playing games, so I stopped. Um, and it worked. It actually helped me a lot to get out of stress. So if you really want to get over your stress, you better meet people you like and surround yourself only by people you like. You're going to be much happier. Drop all this. Like, sure, play if you want to play, but you get the point, I hope. You don't have to do this. Do whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt anybody else other than yourself. Um, you know, I have a lot in common with UNCAPs. Unfortunately, I, I kind of killed my darlings already in life. To those who do not know the term "kill your darling," it refers to you have those favorite things that you like and those ideas, those brilliant ideas. And then you, through the process of brainstorming, this term is used like killing the darlings in publicity. In the brainstorming process, the ideas are exposed and they are properly debated and brushed off. And those are the darlings you kill. That idea that you defend to the death because you think it's so cool. It could be so cool. It could really work. But then there are the people around you that, even as part of the brainstorming process, they have to hack it down. The problem with surrounding yourself with people from a specific ideology is that of confirmation bias. That some of the wrong ideas, some of the flaws in the system won't get criticized, rather defended to the bone, which is wrong. And this is why I dropped all ideologies. And this is why I'm trying something completely different, completely new. So, moving on. And sustaining it for long enough, as with time the conflict would start breaking into personal interests. The capitalistic Achilles heel. Lenin used to say about capitalism that they should buy the ropes from the capitalists that they are going to use to hang the capitalists, or something of the sort. Um, and in fact, he used it. Indeed, empirical evidence that Lenin actually practiced what he preached. So be careful with that, because when you are out there jumping up and down and saying, "Hey, hey, look at me, hey, hey," some other people, they are aware that there's a war going on, an ideological war, and they are at war, and they will pretend to be your friends while they search for the rock that they are going to smash your head with. Do you understand? Socialists, they act very differently from capitalists in that sense. Capitalists are obvious, socialists are not in several cases. Of course, there is the university morons, but that's another topic. You know, the ones with Che Guevara t-shirts and all that. The real ones, they are not wearing Che Guevara t-shirts. They actually despise it because technically it's kind of a capitalistic mindset. But so be very careful. Subversion is not wearing a cloak and dagger. You know, subversion is much more than that. It's much more complex than that. There's a whole science based in that. So while you're jumping up and down there over the hill, they're just paying attention. They are looking where you are going and looking how they can prevent you from reaching your goal. And sure, you need to do that for now to find people, equal-minded people, to form your great whatever you call it project. Like I've seen people from the Free State. I'm pretty aware of them. I have been in contact with them in the early 2000s. Very interesting. Um, I even suspect they might have taken some of my ideas. My project is kind of old. Nowadays, I can say that. Before it was kind of new, now it's kind of old. So we inspired each other, that's for sure. Knowing that there are projects out there that think similarly is a good thing. I love it. I love that idea. And the more pressure that governments set on us, the more reaction they're going to get because we are humans and we react. I mean, no highly repressive culture has managed to keep on living for too long. So money will be your downfall, just saying. Yeah, because you need to be careful with that because money is not everything. Sure, it can buy everything, but it is not everything, and not everybody thinks about money the way that you might. So, and you cannot even know where they are coming from when they are not about the money. Do you understand? You can theorize about how socialists are going to act next based in stuff that they say or wrote about, but it's a puzzle. I have nothing against socialism in the sense that we are all socialists nowadays. There's no denial in that. I mean, I find no real capitalistic government, and that term itself, it's communistic. It was created by the communists as a straw man, later on turned into a boogeyman to scare the children. So, and it worked pretty well because the majority, if not all, the communist goals and the communist manifesto in near the end of the chapter 2, you can see that the majority, if not all, the goals have been achieved already. So, in 20 years, they managed to centralize the bank in the United States and uh, forbid small do-it-yourself bank. It became a rule, and nowadays, and I know somebody who created a bank and was sued because apparently the word bank is under copyright. So it's not just anyone who can use the word bank. And sure, you can do your little thing, but once you start getting cash, believe me, several people are going to pop up. And it's not just because they are statists, it's because this is human nature. When there's an abundance of goods, people will flood searching for those goods. It's inevitable. And especially because the majority of people are not brilliant thinkers, they are rather sheep herd. Do you understand? And not because I'm calling you a sheep herd. It's a strategy of survival. I mean, look at cattle. If cattle would be in the wilderness today, they would die out. In fact, to prove my point, this is what happened to several species in Australia once they brought about the fox, because they never saw that kind of stuff. The local environment protected them against that kind of predators. And what do you think would happen with the cows that have been so changed, and chicken and everything? That chicken nowadays have more kind of a residual brain than a brain proper. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? They don't have a chance. And I don't want to count in probabilities. Do you understand? The what if, I mean, I have only one life. What if do not apply to me if my life depends on it. I'm sorry. I need a real good cause to put my life in line, and I hope you understand. And as I am like that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are like that as well. That doesn't mean I'm afraid or anything. Fear is something, I mean, I'm too rational to have fear. I have understanding. I might have concerns, and there are definitely things I wouldn't do. For instance, messing with sociopaths, that's something I would definitely not recommend because they are not normal. So, anyway, to make it fair, I used to believe on you guys. That is, until I seen what goes on in uncapped forums, where the most capable are quickly silenced if they cannot be bought or taunted by the less ignorant, yet sitting in a pile of cash, as I previously explained, as having more money is not usually a sign of personal skill and prowess. There is your downfall. Do you understand? It will end up as in the plutocracies that you love to criticize, that the rich and wealthy are going to inherit and own everything, and this might happen. Do you understand? So, what to do? Make a more anarchistic thing. Perhaps it's even worse. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying try it. In fact, in fact, I'm willing to invite any anarcho-capitalist who happen to be willing to start a society from scratch to join my project, to join my ideas. And I know, despite the name might scare you because it's not about you, and that's one of the puns of me choosing my name for the nation names, is to show that it's not about you, that there are other people in the world. There goes my English again. My Yenish. Anyway, I invite you to join my project. And believe me, it's not about ego. Moreover, if it is so good, where are your armies? Where is your state? Empirical evidence, folks, empirical evidence. You cannot keep on asking it from people, yet fail to deliver yourselves. You want people to believe you, bring empirical evidence. Again, I'm not saying, haha, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, bring it on. I'm saying, do this, not to me. I'm about peace and love, folks. Peace and love, okay? I'm too old for that shit, really. Um, but I'm saying, do it. Join my project. I have a completely well established, seriously taken in several spheres of intellectuality, uh, accepted. I participated in international exhibitions, more than once. So until some other, because I was growing too much, again, that thing, a few jerks started trying to trash me, and I just dropped the whole thing. And I have time for that. Decided to go and raise my family instead. I mean, again, this thing of getting too close to sociopaths, not a good thing. So I kept my safe distance, so they can go and pick on other victims and kind of leave me alone. Leave me alone. Jackie Chan moment. To dare someone without having anything to back you up is poor policy. And there is something called international laws that actually are pretty good. They are pretty fair. They're pretty fair. There's something called the Montevideo Convention of 32. You should read it. It puts a general idea. It has changed back and forth, but a general idea of what you should do if you really want to start your own thing. You can do this. There are even laws that favor you doing this, but there are four basic conditions that I'm actually the Montevideo Convention 32. The computer says no. Anyway, for those who watch Little Britain, Montevideo Convention, Wikipedia. Signatories, external background. Like, it was something that was really utterly discussed in micronationalism, and for those who do not know, micronationalism is about people who want to start their own nations, and they have the craziest ideas, and some have the most brilliant ideas. Lots of brainstorming used to be good until, again, the sociopaths got in, and because there is no control, no rules and regulations, everything went to hell in a basket case. I left, several people left with me. The most populated forums nowadays, everybody's kind of averting micronational forums because some really bad apples kind of took over, and made some forums that talking about narcissism. So, and this is not what I want. I could have done a forum of my own. Perhaps I will. But anyway, it was utterly discussed. It would take a lot of time for me to find, but there are four conditions. Uh, One, that you can sustain yourself, that the people that joined are willing to go through with this. You need a population, of course. Uh, you need an area, and you need to be able to defend yourselves. That's one of the four conditions. One of the four conditions is that you are able to defend yourselves. And you would need lawyers, you would need some really skilled people. And again, the Montevideo Convention also states that you do not need to be recognized by any state at all whatsoever, in order to declare your own independence. So if you want to do it, if you don't want to join my ideas, that could be yours. You could pour your ideas. I'm open. I'm open to everything. I really am. If you want to make your own, Go ahead. Please do it. But the point is, do it. I'm doing it. I know it's not easy. I know it's not hard. You need to love it. That's the point. And I have been pretty busy in my life. I couldn't take care of that so much. However, I might be back in the track. Who knows? I don't know. Let's see where the wind blows. Just food for the thought. Just food for the thought. Okay? Don't hate me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just debating a topic I happen to be kind of aware of. So, and that's what you get for daring someone. I meant that humorously. Please don't get me wrong, okay? For daring someone not fueled by any silly made up ideology. Oh, typical me and my brilliant phrases. Uh, I understand how I can be misunderstood. If you do not control your mind, others will. I think Machiavelli said that. So I do not take sides on this one. Sorry, you have to make it, not to fake it. As I have a mind of my own. And don't get me wrong there. Since ANCAPs claim they do not wish to force others into anything, and yet I have seen so much of that in ANCAP forums. I have. Okay. I myself have suffered backlash in a way that took me ages to suffer backlash in a micro-nationalistic environment. And they had cookie people. So they had some very good people. They have. Why had? They have some pretty good people. I have many in my list of personal friends. I love them and their ideas. They are creative people. However, they're the bad apples. And they really, really ruined everything. I'm still a little pissed off, like disappointed by all the mess. Something as beautiful as that. I'm even thinking together with some other micronationalists. Perhaps this is paranoia, but that those specifics they could just as well be agents, like of some system that no, just toss it out there. But too much thinking, it's not really a good thing sometimes. Could just be pure paranoia. Of course, as this would be a violation of the other utopia known as the non-aggression principle. Oh my, I have touched another cornerstone of UNCAP ideology. Just remember that you are the one daring me. So, I meant it humorously. I even put a smiley there so you wouldn't, uh, so you initiated force against. You get my point. Anyway, problem is that who also uses the non-aggression principle as a cornerstone of their whole philosophy? Mohammedans. Mohammedans use it, the non-aggression principle. They never start anything. They never start the violence, according to them. They never start the violence. Others do. Do you understand? Why? Because others did something they might not agree with, and because it's their country. For the Mohammedans, it might just as well be a violation. It might be just as well in the Mohammedan understanding, initiation of force. Do you understand? Because they're being forced. They're being forced. Although it's not their country, but they are making demands, and because their demands are not being met, they're being forced. Do you understand? So, yeah, has been historically used before, and Mohammedans is just one case. Several other people use that. That it's never their fault, they never did anything wrong. It's always the other ones in their own country who did something wrong, despite the fact that they have lived like that for centuries or millennia. No, they're wrong, and you understand, like sophistry Good use of words can turn anything upside down. This is actually why philosophy was born. So, if you do consider those points and use them wisely, and with it you manage somehow to achieve a sovereign state based in anarcho-capitalism, remember who you got it from, and to give me my share in forms of property, at least percentage, and that I don't mean humorously, because I need money to survive, I have children to sustain, I have a family to raise, so it is very important to me that I get paid for my ideas, because this is all I have. So this is not a joke. I know that in the business environment, this costs a fortune. The kind of ideas that, the kind of solutions that I'm giving. Perhaps I should be an ANCAP consultant and be consulted by ANCAPs to how to make their own work. Because I lack the resources and you seem to have a lot of resources. I have seen how you spent it all in the latest Ron Paul campaign, how the Republicans tricked all the ANCAPs to vote for the Republican candidate instead of voting for the Libertarian. Fantastic. Like, at least the Libertarians, ANCAP kind of. But I hope you get the point. You were tricked. It was a trap. You were tricked into spending all your money in the Republican campaign so they would seize the money and use it in their own campaign because you didn't stick to your own guns. You believe in those old foxes. I mean, come on, folks. Ron Paul, I love the guy, I love what he says, what he does, that's a different matter. But he is he was the right arm of Reagan in the time of the Cold War and the end of the Cold War. They managed to trick the Russians, those fantastic chess players. And you are telling me they couldn't trick some idealistic, well-intended, gullible people? Because usually when you are well-intended, you are usually gullible. And don't get me wrong, this is just the voice of reality. Do you understand? I'm a guy, I have been over 14 years before that, since the 80s, kind of struggling for similar ideas, but really kind of condensed it in something virtual to start as a joke, but still. So I have been in this independence road for a very long time, and I learned a lot. At the point of a gun, you can say that. I have had a gun pointed at my head. So even that I learned. Uh, that was actually my first contact with the state. That was my welcome to the state. I was never arrested, never did something that could be, but I was definitely stopped. I was definitely prevented from doing anything stupid. So I know, more or less, probably more than you in that topic specifically. There are topics I probably don't know anything about that you rule, but on this one, I might know a little more. So I just want to share what I know. I'm not bragging, I'm not, it's because I notice something with people today, perhaps always, that any sharing of knowledge today is kind of, it's by default to some people that you're putting them below. And no, some people know more some things, some people know less. That's how it is. Okay. So, yeah. As I provided you the means to pull your ideas through by showing you as an engineer would the faults on the design of your vehicle. In that case, anarcho-capitalism is your vehicle to success, right? It's your ways to your goal, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. So I will want my fair share if your ideas somehow survive an enemy standing army. That's the problem. Yes, my whole philosophy is based in that several things are completely obsolete. But even if a musket is obsolete, a musket can still kill you. Do you understand? So be careful with that. Be careful when you handle a musket. It might have a mind of its own, if you understand what I'm saying. After all, I am a philosopher, this is my daily bread, and I have children to feed. You know, it's never enough emphasizing this. Socialism made us forget a little that, but no, this is reality. Uh, or will you use my knowledge for free? My time is money, and I ain't cheap. Do you understand? I don't mean to be rude. I need to live. Pay me, and I will lead you there. Don't pay me, and you already exposed yet another fallacy on your ideology hypocrisy. I had to point that out because either you then treat everything fairly, you know, ethics and your principles, the ones you mention, and paying a man for their hard work. I mean, I spent years figuring those things out. Do you understand? That's the amount of time that I spent. Decades are there to say. Developing, elaborating, finding the flaws, going through a lot of shit, taking a lot of garbage from a lot of people, uh, being called brilliant by others. That's the upside of it. Um, but I have figured solutions to my problems, and now I have something that is going on in the speed that I want it to. Do you understand? I'm running my little car, baby, to wherever I want. I have plenty of fuel and I know what I'm doing. So I recommend you to follow me or make your own. But you need to do it. You cannot just sit and wait 100 years from now. My friend, it's not going to happen. Remember, communism in 20 years of after it had been elaborated, and they came up with this brilliant idea of centralizing bank in the hands of a state so they could rule over the economy and, you know, print money whatever they want, crash the economy, make people miserable whenever they pleased, uh, help their friends just for the sake of it. Do you understand? In 20 years, my friend, the beacon of freedom, the ideas of liberty, suddenly it was forbidden. And nowadays we cannot use bank uh, just like that. We need approval from a lot of the wrong people, if you ask me. But don't you worry, there are other ways. If you want to ask me what other ways, we can talk about it. But I take cash. Do you understand? I'm not going to give the informations that I spend the last decades of my life for free. I should. Why should I? If you want to help me, you can learn a lot. While you help me, you can learn. But sorry, I need to live. So I'm actually giving a lot of tips here for the wise. You're asking us anarchists, where are your armies? Where is your state? Hmm. We don't need those things in the first place. Well then, this is why you don't have millions. You have, uh, how is it you? Oh, it was another one. Who replied? No, it was the same one, Georgia. Um, you said, Georgia, not I. You said that you are a few isolated people within a sea of statists. And then here, you are saying that you don't need those things in the first place. This is why you are isolated people. I hope you understand. I know ideology makes it almost impossible to come out of that fence, of that penitentiary that is an ideology. But please make the effort because it's worth it. It's worth coming out of the cave. Although your eyes are going to hurt and you might be pissed for some time, but it's worth it. Since when have armies created peace or security? Mm, since always. Like, if you want peace, prepare for war. What happened to that? Um, the problem there is that they expanded too much because of that crazy guy Julius Caesar. I read his books. I know what I'm talking about. Came up with the thing of invading allies of Rome and killing them all. I mean, and suddenly and that thing of the Carthaginian Empire that they accepted the Iberian Peninsula once the Carthaginians lost the war. So that's when really they got fucked financially. That and the problem of them accepting foreign that foreign what's the name of it? Foreign nobiliaries into their business, you know. So people who never had an allegiance to Rome, people who actually resented Rome for several reasons, for instance, having their houses burned, their children sold into slavery, like they had plenty of reasons to resent the Romans. And they were given positions of power in Rome despite of them resenting the Romans. And the rest of history, you know what happened, like to Rome. They sabotaged Rome back and forth. It took some pretty good centuries, but they did it. You know, it finally collapsed. If, of course, it didn't morph into something else. That's to be debated, like the Roman Catholic Empire, literally. But armies do create peace and do create security. Sorry, but there are several examples of it. In chaotic situations because of storms or whatever, when they call the army to help and to secure order and peace, they do it pretty well. When they need to build bridges, when they need to expand engineering, like the huge roads in the oh, and I don't mean the roads in that sense that some other people might mean roads. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Like efficiency, hierarchy, understanding of hierarchy, not questioning too much the order of things is also a good thing. Just saying, you know, it brings about efficiency, like a machine that works fully, well oiled, and it works fast and it can do its job. This is basically what an army is about, and this is why even people like Magno ended up copying army practices because there's no way you can beat an army with a poster saying I'm a libertarian. And I'm sorry, this is not how you're going to end it, and this is not how they are going to end you. Definitely, you know, see Ruby Ridge, see Waco, see all the attempts that are happening. All the people dying out there because of that. Okay, stop paying your taxes and see what happens. If you really want to brag for being an anarchist, I'm just saying, you understand? You are telling me stuff. You're saying you are an anarchist. Well then, stop paying your taxes. Do it. Be an anarchist. True anarchists in the history of humankind have done it. And they almost succeeded. But there were some flaws in their ideology that made this ideology impractical, plus their love relationship with socialism. Well, socialists are all about the state, and you know that as an ANCAP. I don't need to go through that, hopefully. So you know where I'm coming from in that sense. As you can see, I seem to be very well informed about what ANCAPs are about and what they know and all that. I've been around. I've been around. So armies cost such an unbelievable amount of money. Oh, I know exactly where you are getting this from. But anyway, yes, and they are also highly profitable because they ensure order, peace, efficiency, getting things done, no questioning, rules. Do you understand? Hierarchy. It's If it is a gun, it's a very good gun. And and that you emphasize because it is in bold, extremely inefficient, unquestionable way of defending and securing your country. So how does it work so well? I mean, they could sure beat the crap out of any anarchist so far. There was no anarchist society who could ever withstand a well organized, well oiled army. There was none. If you find some, please tell me. Because as far as I know, I don't see, and it hurts me to tell you that. Because it's very good to believe. And yes, we are all free, and that's the whole point of my project, for instance. However, I believe I go beyond a notch, and I think that even anarchism is obsolete. Not just socialism, not just capitalism, not just all this uh, outdated uh, structural systems to other ages, to other places in time, to when we had different technologies. We are in the age of information. We have entered the age of information. Hopefully, there is no stopping that. Hopefully. It depends on you, depends on me, depends on everyone. This is not going to be individual progress. This is going to be a worldwide development, a worldwide effort. So, if it is as you say, and please provide me evidence to it, it's your claim, not mine. I was not really emphasizing armies. I was just saying that armies are dangerous. Be careful with that. Okay, they will try to stop you if you get too big and you take money from them. They will try to stop you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to make you aware of something that you didn't seem to be. Look at the last time, and come on. The First World War started when an anarchist, poor guy, shot the Archduke Ferdinand. That triggered a lot of treaties, and suddenly there was war all over. What socialists took full advantage of, again, at the expenses of an anarchist. Reasons why I believe, I'm sorry I have to say this, that anarchists can be, they are not really, but they can be pretty gullible sometimes. And it usually costs them their lives. An extremely inefficient and questionable way of. Questionable, sure. Inefficient. Is there anything better than that in the market that works as well as an army to get things done? I mean, is there? Is there? As a philosopher, you see, I have to step in the other shoes. I have to see things from different perspectives. So I'm asking you, I really am. Think about it. Do some research. Have you ever been in the army? Have you ever been in touch with the military? Do you know what they train? Do you know what they know? Those are crucial things that you need to know before you can come up with something. It's not just the uniform, you know. The uniform is just a symbol for a set of achievements. And if you do not fulfill those achievements, they don't want you. It's as simple as that. They're not going to hate you, resent you, write write a vlog about how much you suck. They don't have time for that bullshit. Do you understand? Because time is money, and in the case of the military, time is life or death. So perhaps much more serious than money. Because when there's life or death, suddenly people, money becomes relative. At least for the majority of people, of course. There are the nutcases, uh, like me and you. Armies can only exist in a fiat money debt-based system. Not true, but your show. Where the state simply prints the money out of thin air and indebts the future generations so it can have its wars and police state now. Well, when states do that, when they do that, uh, they have huge debts that are paid throughout time. And because they have a well-established state, that they had an army to defend against other attempts of taking them, they can actually do this, and they do this pretty well. For instance, the War of the Falklands. No, even worse, the Second World War. Like, they recently, very recently, finished paying up all the debts that they had of war. In Brazil during the 40s was when they had. Uh, Brazil is a very wealthy country, very rich. They had the resources to pay from the times of the Paraguayan wars down there. That was a huge conflict in South America. Also very interesting to read about, especially because Brazil didn't have an army. It didn't. Its security was based in the wealthiest people around. They could host a national guard that took care of the land. I'm sure you can criticize all the state back then. The state was not by a fat chance as it is today. Okay, people had way much liberty back then. So they didn't have an army. They had to make an army. They had to create an army, really, an army. They didn't have an army. They had a national guard. They had to create a real army, learn efficiency during the whole progress of the war that they were losing miserably because they didn't had the knowledge to stop a well-trained army that Paraguay had. Paraguay alone, a little country, was kicking everybody's ass because they invested in a well-trained army, something that the all the countries around didn't had for sure. They didn't had. They were all based in the principles that the ANCAPs want to fall back into of the local communities defending themselves. They don't need an army. They don't need a state. They can take care of themselves. Do you understand? I mean, it's the same principle, really. And they had to change it to survive. They were fortunately, they managed to get some really hard working uh, guys to make that job, and they did it. But otherwise, they would have lost if they hadn't raised a proper army and trained properly. They they were just being beaten to pulp. So there is empirical evidence that armies are pretty efficient. Now we can debate some countries, politicians, are they efficient or not? But armies, my friend, they have to be. It's a matter of life and death. So this that you are writing here, I do not think. Uh, I think you should do a little more research. Armies are here to wage wars of aggression, not just wars in foreign countries. I'm also talking about wars and drugs, etc. Actually, the war in drugs, this is the police. This is not the army. The army really perhaps taking care of the border control or something, but it's really all about the state, like the administration and the police forces around and everything. And I mean, you only need to watch the American movies to know that it's not that the army is sending their troops in to fight the the the, the drug lords. No, they send in the police. They might even send some special units related to the police, what could be understood as paramilitary forces. But they do not send the army really. No, they don't. They might perhaps track down some aeroplanes, or the navy might catch every now and then some boats doing something illegal because they are inside territorial waters, or it's an aeroplane that is not giving the proper reply for the air control, so they have to send something to strike them down or to make them uh, land so they can check. But other than that, uh, so far empirical evidence proves that the uncapped mindset hasn't worked so far, and this is why we do not have it. I know you believe, I have heard the biggest thinkers of your group concluding that 100 years from now, my friend, I can tell you, because again, I've been in the practical side of that world, I'm not just theorizing, I can tell you, 100 years from now, we won't have a clue about what is going to happen. Okay, so we cannot base ourselves in ideas of the past to draw ourselves a future. And if you doubt me, you can also check how they used to see how we were going to be dressed and behaving today. And this is like 100 years ago in those international fairs about the future. And this is not how it turned out to be. We became very different. So, it's It's a romantic thought. It's a beautiful thought. It's an empathic thought. I'm an empath myself. At least I consider myself an empath. Um, but let's be realistic. There's much more to it than we know. Okay, we do not have data enough, and especially based on that violent curve upwards in the terms of technology and thereby principles. Uh, and what if we meet aliens? And what if they kick our ass? It can happen. Anything can happen in 100 years. Doubt me? Just check what happened in the latest 100 years. And we didn't have a technological curve like this, like we have today. The technological curve was still something like that in the late 50 years, and now it's like that. I mean, come on. So usually to have a scientific conclusion about something, we need data, a lot of data, in order to form evidence, empirical evidence, call it as you want, in order to figure future possibilities, mathematics. But thing is, we do not know what is going to happen, especially after we hit singularity. Now, who knows? Google suddenly decides to spread in thin air nanobots that will get into by our nostrils, mouth, whatever, while we sleep. And when we wake up, we have this urge every 6 hours or 3 hours to buy some specific product uh, that we wouldn't do with a gun in our heads. Do you understand? We do not know what's going to happen. Who knows? We might become slaves of technology, of those nanobots. Things might go wrong. We might just become a goo gray. I mean, a gray goo. Like, there might be malfunction in several nanobots that those stupid either states or wild capitalistic um companies might come up with that might misfunction because humans there, um, and suddenly it turns everything living into a gray goo. I mean, who knows? There is actually a theory based in that, the gray goo thing, like when they wanted to develop nanobots as war technology. So there was a fear. Even Prince Charles came out in the streets protesting against uh, nanotechnology being used in warfare because nobody knows what is going to happen, you understand? It is, our technology is going so fast that uh, we should be careful with it because there is no way of figuring. A simple malfunction of a little group of nanobots that happen to be close by might cause a lot of hassle. Now, who knows? We might even have zombies. You understand? Some infection, some nanobotic infection that, like, some company does a product that wants to insert some certain buy some hair products, and suddenly we become brain addict without even noticing, probably, you know, because it's going to happen in such large numbers suddenly. Because in 24 hours, nanobots that can be spread through thin air because they are like they are microscopic. So who knows? Do you understand? What if 100 years from now we might not even be here? 100 years from now, suddenly some comet, because that we don't have the technology yet to foresee, at some speed that we have not yet calculated, can come about and crash right into the earth, and you know we might all be abducted. Do you understand? In 100 years from now, I could write a lot of very interesting stories about 100 years from now. Would I be correct? That's the problem. So I do not want to count into something like that when I have plenty of empirical evidence and solutions, like peaceful measures that may allow me to get what I want. So I do not need to push any absurd agenda. Do you understand? This is where I'm coming from. I know what you're talking about, and I'm paying attention to what you're telling me. It's very interesting, especially to question my ideas. I need that. This is why I'm asking people from that environment to share their ideas with me. If you happen to be an ANCAP, if you want to join my project, if you think I'm too fancy-pancy or full of shit and you want to enlighten me, welcome. But you have to do your share. You have to be a real anarchist and a real capitalist and move your ass because it's hard work and I need people willing to hard work to make ideas happen. I don't want to count with 100 years from now. I want to do it now. Perhaps the next generation, but something closer than 100 years. More realistic, right? Armies are here to wage wars of aggression if necessary. If you read Sun Tzu, one of the first things Sun Tzu says, he begs to the princes not to wage war because if they do war, then they are leading their power, like they are leaving their powers in the hands of people like him. Do you understand? And actually, in several cases, as it was in Brazil that I've aforementioned, the Brazilian emperor fell once there was a standing army. Do you understand? Like it became a republic. The generals took over. So Sun Tzu was right. And by the way, Brazil never entered a war again, except perhaps they sent a hospital unit in the First World War, and in the Second World War they participated in the take of Monte Cassino, Monte Castello, and some other little things with a small expeditionary force. But um, and several of the nations, if not all, for a really long period of time in South America were uh, ruled by generals. So your idea that armies wage wars of aggression by default because they are armies is a bit flawed. I have to say that. Not just foreign countries. You might be referring to fascism, but we all know what happened to fascism. I mean, they were beaten in a few years, like because you cannot, you know, read Sun Tzu again. You really wars have to be quick. If they take longer than previously planned, everything goes to hell in a basket case. So the whole intention of building an army is to prevent a long, obnoxious war. And that might be one of the problems with anarchism. When they wage war, they intend it to be long. But again, it's an ideological belief. It's not really what really happens because people die and they cannot be replaced. I'm also talking about war on drugs, etc. So armies will never be compatible with true anarchism. Depends on how an army is built. Depends. Like again, you would need to have a little knowledge about armies before you can come up with that conclusion. I mean, At least, as an anarchist, I really suggest you reading Machno. And if you say that Machno was not a real anarchist, I urge you to read his books and draw your conclusions after you read at least his books, his three books about the revolutions in Ukraine. I suggest you do it for food for the thought, for even arguments that you can use to counter people against your ideas. But learn how it's done before it's done. I hope you understand. I'm doing that to help you. And of course, I got a bit grave because don't try, I wrote, don't try to hide behind anarchists because anarchists beg to differ from each other and everything. That's true. If you ever been really 24/7 in the anarchistic environment, you know, including ideology. How can you beat armies with nothing? It's just unrealistic. There is a standing army. They invading wherever you are, and what do? You pick up your gun, and they have tactics. They have strategy. They know what they are doing before they do it. They have at least 20 different plans and how to do it. What do you have? Do you understand? Look at the last times you attempted. Just know your history, will you? Based in your history. I really need to become more diplomatic in the way that I write on the internet. I'm starting to see why some people think I'm too aggressive, or why some people get angry. They never say to me, "Oh, you're too aggressive." No, but they tend to try to get in the same tone. But I'm just doing it for amusement, not for. I'm not angry when I'm saying those things, but it might sound angry because you cannot see my face. Based in your history, the only extreme, inefficient, and questionable way has been the anarchistic. I'm sorry. Otherwise, we would have a lot of anarchist societies because, look, even monarchy that we love to call at least the socialists, but well, we are all socialists, my friend. That's the truth. We live by socialist rules. We have had a socialist education, and it would take generations before we could wipe it completely off the system. Do you understand? It's a generational thing. It took at least 25 years, like one, two generations to have communism really kicking in. So this is probably what we will need to do to kick it out. Not 100 years. And it's a sad truth, you know. States always beat you, and in times where you had a fighting chance, even in times where you had a fighting chance. Am I wrong? Now, the state has a lot of military secret technology that they are only going to deliver to as common knowledge 50 years from now. 50 years from now. Something that they already master. So, if push came to shove, people wouldn't have a chance. They would definitely need much more than just money to do something about it. Based in your history, the only extreme, yeah, states always beat you. Yeah. I'm trying to help you. I am. As you are probably just bitter because there are so many laws and regulations going on at the moment, and I tell you as a friend, you haven't seen nothing yet. Sorry. Those politicians, until we create laws that actually can put politicians in jail for doing a bad job, there is no stopping. The sky is the limit for them. And Georgian wrote, no, it's not nothing. It's a well-armed population that boasts no one. Where is it? Where is it? We like to defend our community, but we are not going to Where I heard it all before. But we are not going to invade other countries and kill people we don't even know. In some cases, you would have to. Refusing to do so would make you lose. This was actually the problem again with Macron. He didn't want to go beyond borders. He didn't want to seize power when he had the chance. He didn't want to do a lot of stuff. And he regretted. I know that because he wrote about it. That he did things in a certain way later on. Um, you like history, me too. So explain to me why all tyrants, and you write that in big capital letters, in all history, first, a tyrant is usually a term attributed to someone who is not noble, who is not powerful, who manages somehow to seize power. But we can debate terms. Now, like technically speaking, an anarchist. In all history, always take away the people's guns before they implement their tyranny. Because they were socialists. Hitler did so, Mao, Stalin, etc. All socialists, in one way or another, right? The list goes on. Obama is preparing it because da da da. Why do they always push for a gun? But socialism, there's several types of states. I mean, even monarchies exist today. They survived the test of time. They have empirical evidence that they are successful as a system because they survived. They withstanded all sorts of tyrants and they're still up. And they are actually usually, in terms of salary, the best paying countries to live in, monarchies. You don't find any anarchistic country. Sorry. Or anarchistic society, if you don't want to call it state or country or whatever. It's just you understand the symbolism. Country in the sense of, you know, millions of people minding their own business in the way that they see fit, instead of isolated little groups of individuals living in the middle of states. Why do they always push for a gun grabbing agenda before enslaving the population and committing genocide? Because they're socialists, not necessarily because of the state. They believe in a form of state that is not productive, and this is where they fail. That doesn't mean that the state, whatever that means, fails by default. Do you understand? It means that socialist states don't have a standing chance over. No socialist state can withstand 100 years without collapsing. But that's socialism for you. As soon as all the goods from previous states are used, they crash. If they cannot expand and steal it from other people, of course. Well, it's because they don't like it when the victims can defend themselves. Yeah, socialist states, yeah. And please answer this question about your morality. My morality. Do I have a morality? Do you want to go to war and kill other people when your government orders you to do so? You know, do you want to go to war and kill other people when another government threatens to invade you? You sure don't, I hope. It depends of the context. I actually have an agreement with my local state. You see how far I went in my anarchism, in my beliefs, in my ideology, in whatever you want to call it, in my independence, in my personal realization. I actually have a contract, piece of paper signed by both parties, where I state clear I should never be forced to be a part of an invading force into another country. You understand, like of. But in case that my country is invaded by another country, that I would have the duty to defend it in that case. And I actually came up with the idea myself. I checked the lawyer, I checked all the details, and then I made that. Why? Because in the case of a war, if the country I happen to be living in uh, is a nasty country and wants to invade other countries and make life miserable, just because, I would have much less trouble because I already went through the proper channels that all states seem to have. We can debate. Communist states usually don't. Either you do their bidding or you are the enemy of the people. Either you do the bidding of the people in power or you are the enemy of the people. Probably the people in power, but that's communism, all the nastiness, subversive thinking, and all that to trick people. Anyway, but in a monarchy, usually it's your word given, it's your like reputation, it's your moral, it's your how is it you it's my morality is very important. So I have this in place, and this is how it is. If the country I'm living in at the moment is invaded, I would probably defend it depending of the reasons. That's also specified in that document that I have. But you see, I used my bum. Do you understand? Not. I used my brain to come up with that. Do you understand? Some people use their bum. Some people just serve without ever questioning. I did question, and I got answers. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you talk with people as if they were people individually, instead of a mass, me against them. No, they're people. If I am a person, they're a person. If you really believe in the sense of individuality, then you have to do things right. You have to realize that it's not me, 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 me too. That it's not just you. You are living with other people, surrounded by other people who are contributing a lot, believe me, a lot, to make everything work. And so should you. You know, I don't like to spit in the dish that I eat in. Do you understand? I I understand that other people came here first. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I came after all the struggles were settled. All the armies were out of ammunition and they finally decided to sign a treaty. And I came after that. So that's what I can do to safeguard in case that the country I'm living in turns amok, which I don't believe, because I usually choose countries that are well balanced in one way or another. They all have their eccentricities. They do. The stupid things that you say, fuck, this is stupid. But well, it worked for them. Thanks to that. They are still around. And the country I'm living in is considered to be the oldest monarchy. I'm not saying, hey, join monarchy, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to tell you. You know, what socialists call for over 100 years now, 200 now, almost, as stupid, retrograde, and all that, still around, still alive. Well, socialism itself is collapsing, constantly bursting into flames. Monarchies are still around. They're still functioning, they're still working. And I happen to live in the oldest of them all. So there is a certain level of success, even if we are talking about evolution. You know, we're talking about the sharks. They have been for over a million of years and they're still around. Why? They might be very simple, but they are highly effective. Do you understand? And they had plenty of evolution to develop all the small details. They are so perfect, sharks, that they do not even have cancer. Actually, scientists are starting to use them to research a cure for cancer. So, talking about evolution, huh? And the funny thing is that their skin is actually made of teeth. And that tells a lot about armies and all that. So I hope you understand that I'm coming with empirical evidence and facts, and you have a dream, and it's good to dream. You sure don't, I hope. So what will you do when the day comes? Already did. Sorry, we had a deal. I defend you if this place is attacked. If I can. I mean, if a foreign government takes over completely and manages, and the local government just bends over and spread their legs to the enemy, every contract is null and void, right? Then it's the new state giving new rules and all that. But until then, I will defend it. Of course, I believe in the good of these people, and they are good. The people I'm living around here, they are really nice people, man. They don't want any trouble. So, already did. What about you? Did you do? Are you doing what you want? Do you own yourself, or can your government simply order you to become a murderer? My friend, if I know that a bunch of bastards is going to invade this country and they are going to be kicking doors and doing the horrible things that people do in wars, I happen to have a family. I would do anything to defend them. I think it's pretty obvious, right? What about you? Do you have a family? Would you just give up when they came, when they decided to invade you? Would you let enemy people build up an army in your border while they're saying, "Oh no, no, we're just passing by, nothing to see here. Don't you worry. No, we are never going to invade you. No, team up the run. They're over there. No, 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 no. We come in peace. Ow, 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 ow. We come in peace. Remember Mars attacks. You really need to like. I'm trying to help you. You know, but I know what you mean by that. But I'm just telling you. Actually, you should join the army just to know what it is about. Because that's the reason that so many people today don't want to join the army. Because then it's not going to be about them all the time. It's going to be about everybody. You know, you are going to learn that you are part of a machinery, and if one of the clogs or one of the pieces of the machinery clogs, the whole thing goes down. Do you understand? So they must be prepared to all those things. And this is why a hierarchy is important, and this is why armies stand the test of time, and anarchist societies, as good as they sound, do not. Perhaps it's too early. Perhaps that specific ideology is obsolete. Perhaps it was created by communism just as a safeguard for the most radical people there, so they could use them to do their dirty jobs, as history apparently has proven. That seems to be the case. So, and then I wrote something else, and you didn't write back. But that's really for you. Don't get me wrong. If you don't like what I'm saying, if you don't like my tone, do tell me. I'm going to put it in private so you can have access to it whenever you want to. Okay, I don't want to make it public. So you can know what what are my bases for saying what I'm saying, you know. Because I'm not a cult leader, and I'm actually against all that, especially because I believe that to be obsolete as well. It's ineffective. It's ineffective because usually people tend to die because of that. And I want to live, and I want everybody who is with me to live with me. And I know that states at least provide proper channels of communication. And if you play your cards right, it works. If you don't, then, don't hate the game. Oh, sorry. Don't hate the players, hate the game. And I sense that ANCAPs are turning a lot against the players and forgetting the game. And there's the game of survival. That's the basic game of life, is to survive. So politicians are fully aware of that, so they make sure they survive. Do you understand? Much to the detriment of everybody else, and that's where the problem is. Because somehow our societies today are not punishing the politicians as they should be. That's the only problem in our societies today, because we do not move our asses to punish the responsible in our society. Not because there's something as a state, because as a state, again, this generalization thing, like religion. What religion? All religions are different. And I'm pretty sure that all states are different too, in 20 ways, 20,000 ways or another. Do you understand? And you have to pick what you have, or you can create your own, as I'm doing. You can join my effort. We can do it together, or you can make your own. It's up to you. Do you understand? I'm not obliging you to anything. I'm just telling you, if you join my nation, you could learn a thing or 20,000 about how it's done. It could work. But I don't know. Perhaps you're too independent. Perhaps it's not a good thing for my nation to have you because you're only thinking about yourself. And I need people who can think about others, and to become a murderer. If my family would be threatened, if they would have their lives threatened, I would definitely become a murderer. That would be a possibility. Of course, I would do anything I could to avoid such a situation because I'm not a lunatic. And I know there will be consequences. Even if I would enjoy, there would be consequences. So this is not the point. This is not the right question. Um, but that's as it stands. And I would definitely defend this little country here in any way I could. Now, I know I might not be the best soldier in the world, but there are other ways. I'm good at philosophy, I'm good at arts, I'm good at other skills, you know, strategy. I'm very good at that kind of stuff. So I think we have to defend the people around us that we like, and that includes the country I'm living in by default. You know, we can talk about circles in the water. You know, they spread and they always come back to you. So you should be aware of that, okay? I've been there myself. I have had the thoughts that you had. I'm just, I have moved forward. I just decided to do all the things that you are dreaming of. And I know kind of what works and what doesn't. So follow the wise, not the cult leaders.